But as they left, their houses were all demolished and burned with the fear that leprosy would live on in the walls. So those are some of the remainings you can get on the island, which is a graveyard to your right hand side. I was still clear so far.
Yeah, this is
Much they never actually calculated that people might be killed. They just thought that people would be arrested and the apartheid regime would be ungovernable because most of the prison would be filled, if not all of them, because they knew black South Africans at that time were outnumbering our oppressors, that there is no way they can arrest them all. While the others are in prison, most of the other group will still be mobilizing the word of freedom. But government answered in a different way because so many people were killed and there was so many blood that was shed in South Africa on that day. And the highlight of that day went to a town which is an outside town from Johannesburg, about 60 kilometers away, known as Sharpeville. The police force of Sharpeville alone brutally gunned down and killed more than 60 people, injured more than 180. Later that day were known as Sharpeville Massacre. Today, we commemorate that day as a Human Rights Day. 21st of March, national holiday to each South African. All band of gentlemen who used to be isolated in the house on the right hand side, with the window facing to the side, red roof, grey water tank or a barrel next to it. Robert Sobukwe apprehended himself on the same day, and he was charged for inciting people to march against government. He was sentenced for 3 years imprisonment in a maximum security prison called Pretoria Central. On his third year of imprisonment, government declared clause which were known as Sobukwe clause. Those clauses were stipulating that they will rule and govern him alone and do whatever they want to do to him at any given time. So when he finishes the sentence, he was transferred from Pretoria Central on the same day of the 4th of May 1963 to that house I showed you earlier on. And when he arrived here, he was declared as the number one enemy of the state, for the fact that he could manage to organize a march of that nature with his party only 1 year old, because PAC were co-founded in 1959 as a breakaway party from a ruling party known as ANC. When he arrived there, that house was specially reserved for him, and he was serving under indefinite sentence. He was not allowed to communicate or have any form of interaction with the other political prisoners from the maximum security prison. He were to be in that house alone. Even when they are performing hard labor job elsewhere around the island, he was not among or part of those who would be performing hard labor job. He was only to be in that house alone. And he was serving under indefinite sentence. During his years in that house, he was diagnosed with a vocal cancer, later with a lung cancer, because he was the only prisoner on Roben Island that had an access to high quality of tobacco. Whether to kill him softly or to do whatsoever, because he would do nothing than sleep and smoke. He became a chain smoker from that house with a tobacco that he was not even paying a cent for. He was released here in 1969 because at that time he was so sick of lung cancer, and government were getting an international pressure from the countries outside around the globe, and about 9 countries in 1969 from Europe started to boycott and sanction South African goods. And they were fearing that if Robert Sobukwe would die on the island, they would get so many bad publicity, and South Africa might be sanctioned or neglected by so many countries around the globe. So you were released in 1969 under that international pressure towards the apartheid regime. After